Deep in the vastness of space, humanity's first encounter with alien life didn't come through a grand invasion or a peaceful diplomatic mission. Instead, it came through a desperate distress signal that echoed across our solar system, carrying with it a message that would forever change our understanding of our place in the universe. It was an ordinary Tuesday at NASA's Deep Space Listening Array when Sarah Chen noticed something unusual in her readings. The signal pattern was unlike anything she'd seen before, too structured to be natural cosmic noise, yet too complex to be from any of our own spacecraft. As she adjusted her equipment to get a clearer reading, her hands trembled with excitement and disbelief. The message, when finally decoded, was simple but chilling. To any civilization capable of receiving this, we are stranded. Our fleet's primary drive systems have failed, life support failing. Approximately 300,000 souls aboard. Please help. The global response was immediate and unprecedented. For the first time in human history, nations set aside their differences and ancient rivalries. Chinese aerospace engineers worked alongside American scientists. Russian cosmonauts trained with European space teams, and Indian rocket scientists collaborated with Japanese technological experts. The fate of another species now rested in humanity's hands. The alien fleet, as we soon discovered, was stranded in the Kuiper Belt, their massive ships drifting helplessly after a catastrophic malfunction in their faster-than-light drive systems. These beings, who called themselves the Nexarians, had been on a centuries-long journey of exploration when disaster struck. Now, they were trapped on the doorstep of our solar system, their advanced technology rendered useless by a simple mechanical failure. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. One of the most technologically advanced species we'd ever encountered needed help from a civilization that had barely taken its first steps into space. But what we lacked in technological advancement, we made up for with determination, creativity, and an unwavering spirit of innovation. This is our moment, Dr. Thomas Reynolds, NASA's Chief of Operations, declared during the emergency United Nations session. Not to prove our technological superiority, but to show the universe what humanity truly stands for: compassion, ingenuity, and the unwavering determination to help those in need, regardless of where they come from. As the world's finest minds worked tirelessly to develop a rescue plan, we learned more about our new alien friends. The Nexarians were a peaceful species, dedicated to scientific exploration and cultural exchange. Their fleet carried not just their people, but also the combined knowledge of thousands of years of scientific advancement, artistic achievement, and cultural heritage. The rescue mission would be the most ambitious space operation in human history. We had 6 months before the Nexarians' life support systems would fail completely. 6 months to figure out how to reach them, repair their ships, and possibly save an entire civilization from extinction. The mission would push human engineering to its absolute limits, requiring us to develop new technologies and solve problems we'd never even imagined before. But as the first rescue ships prepared for launch, carrying with them humanity's best and brightest, a terrifying discovery threatened to derail the entire mission. The Nexarians weren't alone out there in the darkness of space. Something else had found them first, something that might not want them to be rescued at all. As the world watched and waited, one question burned in everyone's minds. In our rush to save another civilization, had we unknowingly stepped into an ancient conflict that could put our own species at risk? The answer to that question would come soon enough, but by then, it might already be too late to turn back. The first sign that something was wrong came during the initial approach to the Nexarian fleet. The rescue mission's lead ship, the HSV Horizon, detected unusual energy signatures circling the stranded vessels. These weren't the normal radiation patterns of failing engines. They were deliberate, organized, and definitely artificial. Captain Sofia Rodriguez stood on the Horizon's bridge, her eyes fixed on the holographic display showing the massive Nexarian ships floating silently in the void. 20 years of spaceflight experience hadn't prepared her for this moment. The alien vessels were architectural marvels, their crystalline structures stretching for kilometers, but now they looked like wounded giants, their once bright surfaces dim and lifeless. "We're picking up movement on the far side of the fleet," Lieutenant David Chen reported, his voice tense. "Whatever it is It's trying to stay in the Nexarian ship's sensor shadow. The crew watched as dark shapes flickered across their screens, appearing and disappearing like ghosts in the darkness of space. Back on Earth, the situation grew more complex. Dr. Reynolds and his team had finally decoded more of the Nexarian historical database they'd been given, and what they found was troubling. The Nexarians weren't just explorers. They were refugees fleeing from something they called the Void Hunters, an ancient species that saw emerging civilizations as threats to be eliminated. They're basically cosmic gardeners, Dr. Reynolds explained to the UN Security Council, pruning what they consider dangerous growth in the galaxy. The Nexarians escaped their culling centuries ago, but now... His voice trailed off as the implications became clear. The Void Hunters had finally caught up with their prey, and humanity was about to be caught in the middle. On the horizon, Captain Rodriguez faced an impossible decision. Their mission was to rescue the Nexarians, but engaging with the Void Hunters could trigger a conflict humanity wasn't prepared for. The rescue fleet had been equipped with experimental weapon systems, just in case, but they were untested against advanced alien technology. The Nexarians themselves added another layer to the mystery. Through quantum communications, their leaders revealed that their ship's failure might not have been an accident. "We detected anomalies in our drive systems before the collapse," their message stated, patterns that suggested intentional sabotage. "We feared the Hunters had infiltrated our fleet, but we couldn't be certain." As the rescue team worked to repair the Nexarian ships, they began finding strange devices attached to crucial systems, technology that didn't match either Nexarian or human design. Each discovery raised more questions than answers. Who had planted these devices? Were the Void Hunters responsible, or was there another player in this cosmic drama? The situation reached a breaking point when one of the Nexarian ships suddenly powered up, its systems coming online without any human intervention. The vessel's communications array activated, broadcasting a signal into deep space, a signal that made every piece of Nexarian technology in the vicinity shut down completely. Captain Rodriguez watched in horror as lights across the Nexarian fleet began going dark. Whatever was happening, it was spreading from ship to ship like a virus, and in the distance, more dark shapes were emerging from behind Pluto's orbit, moving with purpose toward the now defenseless fleet. The rescue mission had just become a potential first contact war, and humanity was caught in the crossfire. As Captain Rodriguez ordered her crew to battle stations, she couldn't help but wonder, had humanity just been drawn into an intergalactic conflict that had been raging for millennia? And more importantly, were we ready for what was coming next? The darkness of space lit up with an eerie glow as the Void Hunters' ships emerged from their hiding places. Their vessels were unlike anything humanity had ever seen, shapes that seemed to bend reality itself, moving in ways that defied physics. The human rescue fleet looked tiny in comparison, like rowboats facing ancient warships. Captain Rodriguez's voice remained steady as she addressed both her crew and the other rescue ships. "All vessels, defensive formation Delta. Protect the Nexarian ships at all costs." She knew they were outnumbered and outgunned, but humanity hadn't come this far to back down now. The fate of 300,000 Nexarian lives, and possibly Earth's future, hung in the balance. On the largest Nexarian vessel, the human engineering team led by Dr. Sarah Chen made a startling discovery. The sabotage devices weren't just disabling the ships. They were collecting data, scanning every piece of Nexarian technology and biology they could access. "They're not here to destroy the Nexarians," Dr. Chen reported back to Earth. "They're studying them. This is some kind of twisted experiment." The revelation hit Dr. Reynolds like a thunderbolt. The Void Hunters weren't simple destroyers. They were scientists of the darkest kind, treating entire civilizations as lab specimens. The Nexarians' flight hadn't been random. They'd been herded, driven across the galaxy until they reached Earth. But why here? Why now? The answer came from an unexpected source. Hidden deep in the Nexarian historical records was a reference to Earth, not as it was now, but as it had been millions of years ago. The Void Hunters had been here before, and something had driven them away, something they feared. As the Void Hunters' ships moved to surround the fleet, Captain Rodriguez noticed something odd about their formation. They weren't attacking. They were waiting. But for what? The answer came in the form of a massive energy surge from beneath the surface of Pluto. Something ancient was awakening, something that had been sleeping in our solar system since before humanity took its first steps. The Nexarian ship's systems suddenly came back online, but they weren't responding to their own crew's commands. Ancient protocols, buried deep in their programming, were taking control. Their ships began moving in formation, aligning with the human vessels in a pattern that matched symbols found in prehistoric cave paintings on Earth. Dr. Reynolds watched the sensor data in awe as he realized the truth. The Nexarians didn't come here by accident. He transmitted to the fleet. Their entire species was drawn here, guided by something encoded in their very DNA, and were part of the pattern too. Humanity's development, our technology, even our rescue mission. It was all planned millions of years ago. The space around the fleet began to ripple as if reality itself was being rewritten. The Void Hunters' ships started pulling back. Their confident advance turned to what almost looked like panic. Captain Rodriguez felt something she couldn't explain, a presence in her mind, ancient and powerful, reaching out to every human in the fleet. As the crew of the Horizon watched in amazement, the surface of Pluto cracked, revealing a light that had been hidden for eons. The Void Hunters had made a terrible mistake. They hadn't driven the Nexarians to Earth. They'd driven them home, to the very place where their species had been born alongside humanity's distant ancestors. And now, both species were about to remember exactly what they were meant to become together. The ancient light from Pluto's core pulsed with a rhythm that matched the heartbeats of every human and Nexarian in the fleet. As the glow intensified, both species began experiencing shared visions, fragments of a civilization that had seeded the galaxy with life billions of years ago. But these weren't just memories. They were instructions, a cosmic blueprint that had been waiting for this exact moment. Captain Rodriguez gripped her command chair as the knowledge flooded her mind. We're not just meant to work together, she transmitted to Earth. We're meant to merge. The Nexarians' biocrystalline technology and humanity's innovative spirit weren't just compatible. They were two halves of the same whole, separated eons ago for safekeeping. But the Void Hunters hadn't retreated in fear. They'd withdrawn to execute their contingency plan. Their ships began emitting a frequency that caused excruciating pain in both humans and Nexarians. The ancient consciousness that had been guiding them faltered, its connection disrupted by the Hunters' attack. Dr. Reynolds made a horrifying discovery as he analyzed the signal. They're trying to force an evolution, he warned. The pain, the shared visions, they're pushing us toward a transformation, but it's too fast, too soon. If we merge now, without proper preparation, both species could be corrupted beyond recognition. In orbit around Pluto, the human fleet and Nexarian ships were caught in a deadly dance. The Void Hunters' signal grew stronger, pushing both species toward a premature convergence. Crew members on both sides began experiencing unprecedented changes, their consciousness expanding, their bodies starting to adapt in ways that defied explanation. Lieutenant Chen noticed something even more disturbing. The Void Hunters' ships were forming a familiar pattern, one that matched ancient symbols found in both human and Nexarian archaeological records. They're not trying to stop the merger, he realized. They're trying to control it, to create their own version of what we're meant to become. On the largest Nexarian vessel, Dr. Sarah Chen made a desperate gamble. Working with a team of Nexarian scientists, she discovered that the sabotage devices they'd found earlier weren't just collecting data. They could be reprogrammed. If they could modify enough of them in time, they might be able to shield both species from the Hunter's signal. But there was a catch. The devices had to be modified from within each ship's core, exposing the engineering teams to deadly levels of radiation. And with the transformation already beginning, no one knew how their changing bodies would react to the exposure. Captain Rodriguez faced an impossible choice. The Void Hunter's signal was getting stronger, and the ancient consciousness was warning of catastrophic consequences if the merger was corrupted. They could either risk everything on Dr. Chen's plan or surrender to a transformation that would twist both species into something monstrous. As she prepared to give the order, a third signal suddenly pierced through the chaos. It came from Earth, but it wasn't human in origin. Deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, something else was awakening, another piece of the ancient puzzle that had been waiting for this moment. The Void Hunters' ships suddenly broke formation, their confident assault turning to confusion. They hadn't planned for this. In their arrogance, they'd assumed they knew all the players in this cosmic game. But as a massive shape emerged from Earth's oceans, launching itself toward space with impossible speed, it became clear that humanity's home world had been protecting more than one secret. The true architects of both species' destiny were about to reveal themselves, and neither the humans, the Nexarians, nor the Void Hunters were prepared for what that revelation would mean. The entity rising from Earth's oceans moved with impossible grace, its massive crystalline form shifting between liquid and solid states. As it approached the fleet, both humans and Nexarians recognized it instinctively. A guardian, one of the original architects of both their species. Its presence sent ripples through space-time itself, temporarily neutralizing the Void Hunter's transformation signal. Captain Rodriguez watched in awe as the Guardian interfaced directly with their minds, revealing the truth that had been hidden for billions of years. Earth wasn't just another planet. It was a forge designed to nurture two different evolutionary paths that would eventually recombine. The Nexarians' journey across the galaxy had been a crucible, developing their technological and psychic potential, while humanity's isolation had fostered creativity and resilience. But Dr. Chen's discovery changed everything. As she worked to modify the sabotage devices, she realized they contained a third genetic pattern, one that belonged to the Void Hunters themselves. "They're not our enemies," she transmitted from the engineering core, her voice weak from radiation exposure. "Their failed attempts at the same merger. They've been trying to fix themselves by studying us." The Guardian confirmed her theory, revealing the Void Hunters as tragic figures, a civilization that had discovered the merger process too early and attempted it without guidance. Their obsession with destroying or controlling other species stemmed from a desperate desire to understand what went wrong with their own transformation. As the Guardian moved to protect both fleets, Captain Rodriguez made a decision that would change the course of three civilizations. Instead of fighting the Void Hunters, she opened a direct channel to their ships. "We understand now," she broadcast, "and we can help you, but only if you help us first." In that moment, Dr. Chen's modifications to the sabotage devices finally activated, creating a network of energy fields that linked all three species together. The Guardian used this connection to show them the true path forward, not a forced merger, but a gradual convergence that would preserve the best aspects of each civilization. The Void Hunters, faced with the possibility of healing their ancient wounds, did something unprecedented. They surrendered. Their ships joined the protective formation around the Nexarian fleet. Their advanced technology now turned to supporting the controlled merger process. But as the three civilizations began working together, the Guardian revealed one final, staggering truth. Earth's oceans contained more of its kind, sleeping guardians waiting to guide other species through similar transformations. Humanity's solar system wasn't just a forge. It was a beacon, calling compatible civilizations from across the galaxy to find their other halves. Dr. Reynolds, watching from Earth, finally understood the full scope of their situation. "We're not just saving ourselves," he realized. "We're becoming the guardians for the next generation of species." The combined knowledge and technology of three civilizations would be needed to help others navigate the same journey. As the transformation began, properly this time, guided by the Guardian, Captain Rodriguez looked out at the fleet of human, Nexarian, and Void Hunter ships working together. Their merged consciousness would take years to fully develop, but they could already feel the change beginning, a harmony of thought and purpose that spanned three different evolutionary paths. The greatest adventure in human history hadn't just been about saving an alien species or preventing a war. It had been about healing ancient wounds and accepting a responsibility that stretched across billions of years. As the first waves of transformation rippled through the combined fleet, they detected new signals coming from distant stars, more civilizations beginning their own journeys toward unity. This wasn't the end of their story. It was just the beginning of a much greater one. 5 years after the Great Convergence, Earth's solar system had become a beacon of hope for the galaxy. The combined fleet of human, Nexarian, and reformed Void Hunter ships now served as a welcoming committee for other civilizations detecting the Guardian's call. Captain Rodriguez, her consciousness now seamlessly linked with both her original crew and their new allies, still marveled at how far they'd come. The transformation had been gradual, allowing each species to maintain their unique characteristics while sharing in a greater collective wisdom. Humans contributed their adaptability and creative problem-solving. Nexarians brought their advanced biotechnology and cosmic understanding, while the Void Hunters provided crucial insights about the pitfalls of premature evolution. Together, they had become something entirely new, yet fundamentally familiar. Dr. Sarah Chin, despite her exposure to radiation during the critical moment, had survived and thrived. The merged consciousness had helped heal her body, and she now led a diverse team of scientists studying the ancient technology hidden beneath Earth's oceans. Each discovery revealed more about the original Guardian's plan and the countless civilizations yet to make their journey home. The changes on Earth had been profound but measured. Cities now incorporated living crystal architecture that responded to thought, while humans who chose to remain unmerged lived in harmony with their transformed cousins. The fear and panic many had expected never materialized. Instead, humanity's long history of telling stories about transformation and transcendence had unknowingly prepared them for this moment. Dr. Reynolds, now an ambassador to newly arriving species, often reflected on how close they had come to disaster. "The universe tests us not to break us," he would tell the newcomers, "but to prepare us for greater responsibilities." The Void Hunters' tragedy had taught them the importance of patience, of allowing each civilization to develop at its own pace. Deep beneath the Pacific, more Guardians were awakening, each carrying knowledge of other compatible species scattered across the galaxy. The combined fleet had already made contact with 3 new civilizations, each at different stages of their journey. Some were like the humans had been, young, curious, and full of potential. Others resembled the Nexarians, ancient wanderers seeking their other half. Captain Rodriguez's ship, the Horizon, had been transformed into something that barely resembled its original form. Now a living vessel of crystal and consciousness, it served as both a home and a teaching center for newly arrived species. The captain often stood on its observation deck, watching the steady stream of ships arriving from distant stars, each carrying beings drawn by the same ancient call that had guided the Nexarians. But perhaps the most profound change had been in the Void Hunters. Their millennia of isolation and guilt had been replaced by a deep sense of purpose. They now used their vast experience to help identify and prevent premature transformations across the galaxy, protecting young civilizations from repeating their mistakes. As the merged consciousness expanded, it began to detect other Guardians in distant star systems, suggesting that Earth was just one of many convergence points scattered throughout the cosmos. The universe, they realized, was not a cold, empty void, but a carefully cultivated garden of consciousness waiting for its seedlings to mature and find each other. "We were never alone," Captain Rodriguez would often share through the merged consciousness. "We were just waiting to grow into who we were meant to become." As she watched another ship of newcomers approach, carrying within it the potential for yet another beautiful transformation, she knew that humanity's greatest adventure was far from over. It was, in many ways, just beginning. And somewhere, in the vast depths of space, countless other civilizations were starting their own journeys home, guided by the light of ancient Guardians and the promise of a connection that transcended the boundaries of species, space, and time itself.